If you've been paying even the slightest amount of attention to the price of items this league, you've probably noticed how insanely expensive essentially everything is. However, that's not really the full story. Everything actually isn't as expensive as it seems, it's just that the price of some of our mainstay currencies have simply bottomed out. This league is relatively different to previous ones with just the raw volume of currency that is being pushed into the economy. And this has led to a rather peculiar situation. In this video, I'm going to go over why these currencies have lost so much of their value and how you can use this to your advantage to make a ton of currency, even if you don't like playing Magic Find. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe, and without further ado, let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean by currency has kind of bottomed out and things are a little bit different this league than normal. We're going to be using a couple different websites. One of the main ones that we're going to be using is Peewee.ninja. It's just a good way to get an overall view of everything that's been going on with like different kinds of currency and items and prices and trends. So let's go ahead and look at currency here. Now, if we jump into the currency tab and you look at probably what you're used to, you'll go and find, oh, divine orbs are 215 chaos. So what do you mean, Big Ducks? 215 chaos seems pretty regular for divine orbs these days, right? Well, yes, and if you're only worried about the difference between chaos and divine and their relationship to each other, nothing has really changed because those tend to drop in similar amounts to each other. They have like a linear increase in how often those two things drop. However, when you start moving up into things like Mirrors of Kalandra, you'll notice that the Mirror of Kalandra currently, and we are 3 weeks roughly into the league, it is currently January 1st, is 150,000 chaos, roughly. If we go back and we look at the price of Mirror Calandra in Ancestor League, and we try to find exactly when it hit roughly 150,000 chaos, you'll notice that it was about 60 days into the league. That's 2 months, and right now we are roughly 3 weeks into the league. So this is where you start to see some weird discrepancies with everything that's been going on. Another example that I can give you is if we go to unique accessories, you might notice that the prices of some of these uniques seem a little bit strange, right? Why is Original Sin currently 378 divine and it's gone up 211%, but Mage Blood is only 185 and is going down? Headhunter's only 155. If we go back to PoE Antiquary and we go to unique accessories, looking at the list of what we've got here, Mage Blood, the average price was 312 divine, Original Sin being 119 over the course of the league. So if we look at the price, right, all the way up to here at 38 days, it peaked at 86,000 chaos, which is half of what a mirror's worth right now. If we're looking at roughly 3 weeks into the league, 72,000 chaos, still pretty close to half a mirror. However, a mirror right now is worth 600 or 700 divine, and Mage Blood is worth 185. So what's causing all of this? Why is everything so messed up? Well, it's a combination of Magic Find gear and the Affliction League's tendency to give you a lot of currency if you are Magic Finding. So what's happening here is that any item that drops from a map that can just be found from any farmable normal map has had its price essentially tank. And anything that is found outside of maps, meaning that you can't find it while Magic Finding, the price of those items has skyrocketed. This is why items like Original Sin, which you can only get through a league mechanic and only through a very difficult process in that league mechanic, are so expensive. Items that are worth a lot, that lots of people like to use, that you can't get in maps, are gonna go way, way up. Another example that I can give you here is if we look at base types, you might notice that there are some absolutely absurd amounts of money being paid for these base types here. These are the new heist bases. And the crazy part about these prices that you see here, right, you might be saying, wow, 270 divine for a single amulet? This is for a split amulet. So if you find one of these items, like say if you found something like a focused amulet, you know, one of these that you might find in the game. If you find a focused amulet, this item, it says the base item is worth 144 divine, right? That's roughly the price. Roughly 144 divine. Every single one of these in this list is a split base, meaning that this is worth double of that. So this is what I'm talking about with items that are found outside of maps are simply just insanely highly priced, and items that are found in maps are essentially tanking. Now, it probably isn't news to you that people are doing Magic Find this league. The Affliction League is absolutely insane when it comes to Magic Find. Now, the reason for this is that it's very, very simple to take pretty much any good clear character that does even a small amount of single target damage. Tornado Shot's pretty famous for this, and just equip a whole bunch of Magic Find gear on the character, go run into some random maps, maybe equip a funny belt like Headhunter or something that just makes your character absurdly strong with no other real investment, clear it out with basically as much juice as a normal character would have. And when you multiply that with the Affliction, so let's go ahead and jump into a map like this. This is just a random corrupted unidentified burial chambers. We'll go ahead and put Ambush on here, which gives us additional strong boxes. We've got some random Sextants and a couple random Scarabs that I pulled out, and we'll just go ahead and jump into here. Now, this character isn't finalized for Magic Find or anything. I kind of just tossed some Magic Find gear on, but you'll see what I mean in that this is a tier 16 corrupted map. I have no idea what the mods are. I just pulled this out of my inventory, so it could be horrifically bad, right? But the main culprit here is this over here, the Viridian Wildwood. We go into this Viridian Wildwood, we grab a whole bunch of this dust, and this dust is essentially what's breaking the game. Now, there's 3 different kinds of dusts here, right? These 3 dusts give very different things. The yellow and purple dust give essentially like quantity and rarity. However, the blue dust gives you just added base currency that drops from enemies. So when you combine all of these dusts together, it ends up with a pretty severe amount of brokenness when it comes to just items and currency and things dropping. So we didn't find as much dust as I would like. You guys can barely see it. So yellow is giving us item quantity, purple is going to be giving us more rarity, and blue is just going to be giving us a chance to drop additional currency. When you combine all these things together and you go into a map that has, you know, a bunch of enemies in it, particularly rare enemies, you run into this situation where you start dropping just absurd amounts of items occasionally. Now, unfortunately for a recording, I can't really force these items to drop, because essentially the way that this works is you're just pulling a RNG lever every single time that you kill a rare and hoping that you're hitting the lottery. And you've probably seen some of these things on like Reddit and other places of these giant lottery tickets that people are essentially hitting, where a giant explosion of items suddenly happens and, you know, the screen fills with 70 divines or 40 winged scarabs or things like that, right? That's kind of the situation currently, is you just run these maps. It doesn't really matter how difficult they are. If you have, you know, a couple funny items that make your character absurdly strong, you're probably mostly okay. Maybe you'll die sometimes, but yeah, you get like explosions of items like this, except they're actually good items instead of, you know, the garbage that we found here. So essentially, when all of those things combine and you get those giant loot explosions and everybody's doing it, well, it kind of floods the market with a whole bunch of divines and a whole bunch of chaos. So what this ends up leading to is the actual just raw value of chaos and divines being about the same, because they're getting, you know, absolutely flooded at the same time. But overall, those values just go down in comparison to random items. So what this ends up with is a situation where everything outside of maps is worth absolutely insane amounts of these currencies, and everything that you find in maps, which can be found while magic finding, is essentially bottoming out. This includes chaos, this includes divines, this includes headhunter and mageblood. Anything that can be found there is tanking in price compared to everything else. Now, how can we use this to our advantage? Say that you really enjoy magic finding, then great. I'm happy that you really enjoy magic finding. I don't. I tried it a little bit with this character and I've messed around a tiny bit with it. Honestly, it's not very fun. I think it goes against like the main idea of playing Path of Exile, which is increase the strength of your character as much as you possibly can so that you can do harder content, so that that harder content can drop better items. Not purposefully make your character weaker, equip a funny belt, and still be able to do all of the different content in the game with as much difficulty as humanly possible, where like giant showers of currency rain upon you. That's not very fun to me. So I've been focusing on other things. So let's talk a little bit about bossing. Now, notably, bossing has always kind of been a little bit of a contentious topic when it comes to making money. There are ways that you've always been able to make money with bossing and ways that you basically make no money. Let's talk about a few of them. And a lot of this has to do with the big drops, right? So the first drop that we're going to talk about is going to be this Sublime Vision here. Now, if you looked at just Pee-wee Ninja and you checked out Sublime Vision, you'd see it's gone up in price a lot, but you see 217 chaos and you're like, Well, if I'm gonna, farm for a jewel, the big drop gives me 1 divine or 217 chaos. And even being able to go in there is like 50, 70, 90 chaos to even enter. And this has like a 1% drop rate. There's no way that that's worth it, right? Well, that's not the full story. So unidentified versions of these are going for around 19 divine right now each. The whole idea is that there are a few of these. If we go ahead and do any, and we do Purity of Fire. Then we come down here, search for cold and lightning damage taken as fire damage while affected by purity, and you kind of see the reason why these are so expensive. 185 divine is what a Purity of Fire Sublime Vision currently costs. So the idea is that something like Uber Shaper, which if you notice that these fragments from Uber Shaper are worth 185 chaos or 175 chaos per one, and on top of that, the entrance fee is only 90C. These are guaranteed every single time that you fight them. Anytime that you kill the Shaper, you get one of these. So you're doubling your entrance fee, meaning that you can go in 2 more times every single time that you do it. And then on top of that, you have a chance for a 19 divine item to drop. That's a pretty insane amount of money that you can make for doing just a boss. Now, honestly, Shaper is kind of an annoying boss. He's not really super fun to fight. What if you wanted to do maybe Uber Shaper or something, right? So you might look at these fragments of shape and see, oh wow, 185, 175, and then 50-50. That's a ton of currency to even be able to go into Uber Shaper, right? And I agree with you, that's a lot. However, if we look at the price of these unidentified Watcher's Eyes, item level 86, you'll notice that they're going for about 9.5 to 10 divine each. And these drop relatively frequently. Now, I don't think this one is as good as doing normal Shaper. However, it's still an option that you can do. And beyond this, there's a couple other jewels that are worth things that come from different bosses, right? Like Rational Doctrine is worth quite a bit. The Red Nightmare is worth a little bit. The Green Nightmare is worth a little bit. And it just so happens that all of these different bosses all are located in the Feared. So if you have a character that can handle Feared farming, you might be able to make an absolute ton of currency farming the Feared, all of the different bosses on Uber first, going and then doing the Feared itself, and having a double chance at a bunch of these items. And then on top of that, you should be able to generate some Maven entrances, which if we're looking at the cost of the Maven's Writ, it's currently 537 chaos. There's an absolute goldmine of money able to be found if you do the right bosses, not just the easy ones that people like go through and, like slam out constantly. If you do some of the correct bossing, you can make an absolute killing on money right now. So closing all of this, let's go with another example. Let's talk about Simulacrum. Simulacrum drops voices, which you already saw is worth a ton. Even like a 5 passive voices, if we go and look at unique jewels again, 3 passive voices, you probably never find this, 200 divine, but even a 5 passive voices is worth 2 divine, right? And that's not even really the main reason that you would be farming Simulacrum. Look at the price of some of these cluster jewels. If you can easily make it to wave 30 Simulacrum, you'll probably find some of these relatively frequently. Maybe not constantly, but you're still going to find a lot of these. On top of just raw amounts of like scarabs and other things that drop in Simulacrum normally. If you just go outside of maps and spend a little bit of time there, if you don't like doing Magic Find, there is money to be found. There is a ton of money to be found. Let's go and talk about what I was saying before and say I right now am doing Heist. These items don't drop very frequently, right? These are actually relatively rare. However, if you find a single Simplex amulet or a single focused amulet, that's probably all the currency you need for the rest of the league. You most likely don't need anything else. Yeah, it might take you like 15-20 hours to find it, but even if it took you 20 hours to find a single focused amulet, realistically, that's probably going to make you 280 to 300 divine. And if you do the math on that, it's like 15 plus divine an hour if we're only thinking about just the focused amulet. Because I'll make a video about Heist here soon, but essentially the way that Heist works right now is you basically just break even the entire time, making almost no money, and then when you find a big item, it's worth a lot. Like if we look at all of the items that I found from Heist, I think I did roughly, I don't know, 20-25 hours of heisting. These tempering orbs are currently worth about a divine in bulk, so there's 16 divine here. These are worth like 0.7 divine in bulk, so there's like, I don't know, a couple divine there. I've got 25 raw divines. We have 856 chaos. These cogwork rings are worth, I think 1 divine each. Yeah, they're worth about 1 divine each, and then you can still split these. This, as I said before, is like 144 divine. You can split it. These are worth less. I found a couple other uniques, like I found the fulcrum and a couple other things that I've sold for large amounts of currency. Now, I started out heist with maybe like, I think 17 divine is what I started with. And if we even minus 17 divine from this because of just like factoring cost and everything, this whole inventory, I'm still sitting on like 350 divine, and I only spent 15 or 20 hours or so, I think, doing this. So there's a ton of money that is available outside of mapping, outside of MFing. If you're just willing to do something maybe a little bit different, try something new, you might be able to find an absolutely insane amount of currency out there. And that is going to be it for the video. Look forward to maybe, this is a big maybe a magic find setup for the Kinetic Bolt, Kinetic Blast, Deadeye, but probably not. I really don't enjoy magic find. But most likely look forward to a new heist guide. I'm talking about all the ups and downs of heist. It's not all gravy, it's not all nice. There are some issues with it currently with all the new changes that have come through, but if you have a little bit of patience, it is a serious form of currency. So remember, boys, if you enjoy this content, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos, and stay safe out there in raid class. And I'll see you guys in the next video.